Hey, yo, Pro Wrestling Podcast listeners, welcome to the show where we don't sing it, we bring it. Help us out and click subscribe to show your support while you're at it. If you are a YouTube user, click the bell to enable notifications so they let you know every time a new episode of the Pro Wrestling Podcast goes live. Make sure to follow us on our Discord community, Pro Wrestling Podcast, and stop by www.tsj101sports.com for the latest articles in the world of professional wrestling and all the sporting world. The Pro Wrestling Podcast is the official podcast for wrestling for TSJ Sports. Hey gentlemen, are you sick and tired of dropping $60 to $100 for the latest and greatest wrestling video game? Stop immediately and go to Wrestler Unstoppable, available exclusively through Facebook. Create a wrestler, sign contracts, get involved in storylines, headline pay-per-views, even build your own corporation from the ground up, all available in Wrestler Unstoppable, totally free to Facebook users. If you want to become a member of the Pro Wrestling Podcast family, you want your name in the shoutouts like our buddy Mike in Lansdale, then shoot over to the Patreon page at patreon.com/Pro Wrestling Podcast. Sign up today. We got loyalty rewards. Any $15 a month contributor gets to co-host a live show with us, and our $7.50 a month contributors get entered into a drawing to also host an episode. Hello everybody and welcome to this live episode of the Pro Wrestling Podcast. We hope if you have any questions, comments, concerns, things you want to talk about, reaction to the night's events, put them into the chat function of whatever streaming service you're using to receive the show. If you want to give us questions or comments for a future episode, use the Pro Wrestling Sound Off line at 267-642-1160. It's a great way to get involved in the show. Make sure you tell us who you are so we can give you credit for your questions. Don't forget to head over to the homepage of the Pro Wrestling Podcast at ProWrestling.com, where you can preview all the topics coming to the show. Check out the Indie Events tab, where we have all sorts of independent wrestling companies bringing localized action right to your area. Check that out today. So tonight, it has been a action-packed evening. Whether you're an All Elite Wrestling fan, an NXT fan, it doesn't matter. Historic night in the world of professional wrestling. We're going to start with NXT only because we're more familiar with what we could expect, and we thought we knew what was going on with NXT, and then WWE went out of their way to knock the ball out of the park, and I will have to say, I don't exactly love one of their decisions, but I love their show, top to bottom, incredible show. Tonight, after the World Championship, the NXT Championship match, where Adam Cole retains his championship against Matt Riddle, we get the shocking return to NXT of Finn Balor, who comes out, takes this good stare-down moment with Adam Cole, exchanges a few words, and Finn Balor, at this point on, is going to be NXT. Now, if I was a Finn Balor fan before, I think NXT could only be a good thing for him because I think he'll be put into the main event picture, whereas over on Raw and SmackDown, for whatever reason, they seem to typecast him as a mid-carder at best. I don't get that. The guy was your first ever Universal Champion. Freak injury prevented an incredible push that you had all lined up for him, and they just never really gave him the ball to run with ever again since. Putting him back in NXT, good move for him. I hate it just because I wanted to see him as WWE or Universal Champion first, but I'm sure at some point down the line that may still be in the cards. For now, Finn Balor is NXT. What a huge debut, returning to that brand, and what the way that helps bolster the audience for WWE. Keep in mind, I understand the buzz around All Elite Wrestling, and we're going to get into their show in a minute, but keep in mind how many people tune in every week to watch Raw and SmackDown, in the neighborhood of 2 to 3 million on a good week, every week for each show. So when you see Finn Balor, more than 2 million people every week tune in to see someone like him. He has brand name recognition, and putting a marquee player like that on NXT instantly gives a boost to NXT. Now, how else can you boost the NXT roster? You've already got a relatively deep roster. I don't care what Kenny Omega said last week about these guys would be doing the dark matches on any show he wrestles. That's nonsense. And most of the NXT roster, the ones that you see on television, have been all over the indies just like Kenny Omega was. They've headlined as many matches as Kenny Omega has. The only difference is they didn't headline Wrestle Kingdom. At the end of the day, Kenny Omega so immersed himself in the Japanese culture that the New Japan Pro Wrestling organization pretty much had to push him as their main star. But as soon as he left, let's be honest here, and I'm not trying to dump on Kenny Omega because I love Kenny Omega, but when he left, he was replaced relatively quickly by the sling blade. So I don't think Kenny Omega's impact on the independent scene outside of Wrestle Kingdom was all that more monumental than anything that a lot of the guys that are in NXT right now are. Certainly Finn Balor was very much a part of the Bullet Club before Kenny Omega was. He had his great matches there. You know, I'm not saying that Jay White is Kenny Omega and that New Japan's doing better without Kenny Omega or anything like that. What I'm saying is the quality of the talent that is featured on programming, Matt Riddle, Adam Cole, the rest of the Undisputed Era, the Velveteen Dream, who's like a homegrown talent. All these guys are every bit the competitor that Kenny Omega is, Cody is, the Young Bucks, and those guys. So going into this situation, when you give somebody like Finn Balor back to the NXT brand, that's huge. And the rest of the show was incredible, don't get me wrong. The Tag Team Championship match was solid. I'm thrilled the Undisputed Era kept their championships. I love seeing Velveteen Dream in the show. Pete Dunne making appearances, all right. I wish it would have been against a more substantial opponent, but I do love that Damian Priest is going to get involved in an actual storyline for a change. We've needed that. The former Punishment Martinez from Ring of Honor. I loved seeing all of that. Shayna Baszler is just unstoppable. I feel like they're purposely putting her in a position to do better than Asuka did with the NXT Women's Championship because they want to in some way make her the most legitimate NXT Women's Champion of all time. Just top to bottom, an incredible show. Now you take that, and how do you put the icing on the cake, the cherry on top, at the end of the show, at the end of the Tag Team Championship match, when Adam Cole is out there celebrating with the rest of the Undisputed Era, you cue the music, and here is the return of Tomasso Ciampa, the man who's really the uncrowned champion, having to relinquish the NXT Championship earlier this year because of that severe neck injury. He apparently is back, and now what do you do with the NXT Championship picture? You've got Ciampa, you've got Finn Balor, and you've got Adam Cole holding the gold with a busted arm, by the way. And three guys who legitimately could carry this brand into the foreseeable future. All three extraordinarily over with the crowd. I don't care what anybody says. That main event would main event any show in the world. Any show in the world, including Wrestle Kingdom. And if not, then I question the booking of whatever show that would be that wouldn't put those three in the main event. Now, switching gears just a little bit, because I don't want to take away from All Elite Wrestling. Tonight's All Elite Wrestling debut of Dynamite was exactly that. It was Dynamite. Chris Jericho and Cody is official. Cody wins his match. He's going to go into Full Gear as the challenger to Chris Jericho. And the whole show was built around, you know, all the elite characters getting a little piece of the spotlight and showcasing some of the lesser known talent. Sammy Guevara, like you and I may know who that is, but a lot of mainstream fans don't. He got put in a beautiful spotlight moment at the beginning of the show and at the end. We'll get to that in a moment. Throughout the show, new women's champion, Rhea wins. She defeats Nyla Rose. Solid match, top to bottom. Every match on the card, solid wrestling action, which is exactly what people wanted to see from All Elite Wrestling. The production value was solid. This didn't look like an ECW show. This looked a lot like a pay-per-view level show, just like WWE's Monday Night Raw and SmackDown always look almost as good, if not as good, as their pay-per-views. Same situation here. This show tonight was the perfect debut. Now, getting later on into the show, we got to see what we talked about and we had posted on the website earlier this week. Jack Swagger, Jake Hager, whatever you want to call him, debuting with All Elite Wrestling, attacking at the end of the show. So for those who weren't watching the show, if you didn't see Jon Moxley attack Kenny Omega, the whole six-man tag team thing breaks down into a crazy melee. We've got the appearance of just about every important star in the company. Dustin Rhodes is out, all these people, and then Jake Hager comes out and attacks all of the Elite and Dustin Rhodes, and in some way creates some kind of alliance with Chris Jericho, Santana, Ortiz, Sammy Guevara, all of them in the ring, really decimating the entire Elite faction. And this was a great way to start your program. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. You don't want to say, here's all we got, we're going to throw it all at you and leave no great dream matches for later. Let's be honest. Coming out of tonight's AEW Dynamite show, next week you could have a 10-man tag team match. The week after that, it could be just a 6-man or a regular tag team match. Cody and Dustin could get a match against two guys, Jericho and Hager. Whatever you want to do, you've got a lot of options right now. And instead of just giving you everything on night one, you now have some things to look forward to. Obviously, Omega and Moxley are still going to get their match going at some point. It had to be postponed in the past. It was supposed to be at All Out, and that didn't happen because of the elbow injury to Moxley over in New Japan. So there is so much positive buzz about All Elite Wrestling tonight. It was a fantastic debut. And if you're a wrestling fan right now, how could you not be just ecstatic? You've got WWE giving totally revamped performances and appearances to both Raw and SmackDown. They're giving you NXT on USA. They're cultivating a more interesting product than they have in many, many years. And then to combat that, you've got All Elite Wrestling, who is presenting their new show on Wednesday nights for all of us wrestling enthusiasts who have DVRs and TiVos. We're going to be recording both shows. It's like the Monday Night Wars all over again. And I don't mean from the war perspective. I'm talking about from a fan perspective. You know you're going to try to record both shows every week and watch them all. I'm so tired of hearing people say, I'm not watching NXT, I'm watching AEW, or vice versa. I'm not going to start AEW, I'm an NXT fan. Baloney. If you're a true diehard wrestling fan, you're watching both of these shows. You're recording one and watching the other in some fashion, some way, shape, or form. All Elite Wrestling is going to be playing again on repeat, so you can watch them both. It's just like the Monday Night Wars when you would watch Raw and then you watch the replay of WCW Nitro. I mean, that's really what we need to do at this point, because there's no reason you shouldn't be able to see all 4 hours of this incredible action on Wednesdays. To follow all that up, we've now got Impact Wrestling on Access Television on Tuesday nights. We have the incredible announcement that the NWA is going to be launching their program next week. On the 8th, they'll have their Facebook and YouTube channels launching their television show, which is going to be NWA Power. It debuts on YouTube and Facebook October 8th at 6:05, like the old WCW Saturday night time slot, 6:05. I'll be checking that out. And if anybody was paying attention to that, like NWA is like so far down the list of priorities, I think, for some people. But even they had big news coming out of their TV tapings that will be showing next week, with the Rock and Roll Express winning their 9th NWA Tag Team Championship at 63 and 61 years old. Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson winning the NWA Tag Team Championship. Colt Cabana recapturing the NWA National Heavyweight Championship at the tapings. And a host of other things going on, as well as what I think might be the coolest two tidbits from the week. Actually, 3. 1, the NWA clearly looking at bringing in a television championship. 2, redesigning the NWA Women's Championship to match the original 1936 NWA Women's Championship belt, which has like the Women's Championship, the current champion's face in the middle of the belt, and the year that it was established above the belt. It's a perfect clone. You know, all these things going on in the NWA. And what I think is the best part is they recreated like the original NWA studio look, which I know some people are like, that's old, I don't really want to see that anymore. Other people are traditionalists and they're like, yeah, that's exactly what I want to see. So kudos to the NWA. They've got all kinds of news going on. There's really not a weak spot in the world of wrestling right now. There just isn't. If you're a wrestling fan, get in on all of it. The only people that I'm a little perturbed with is New Japan. Even Ring of Honor is doing great right now. For anybody who doesn't know, Matt Taven, the big concern was he was going to be leaving, signed a new Ring of Honor contract. He'll be staying. Just lost the Ring of Honor Championship to Rush, so obviously there's a rematch waiting to happen there. And then more importantly, Ring of Honor is committed to spending big dollars on some of their top talent, which means perhaps Marty Scurll stays in Ring of Honor, becomes a focal part of the brand like he probably should have all along. And then the only company that doesn't seem to be doing anything is New Japan Pro Wrestling. They're putting on repeats every single week on Access Television. We want to see something new. I get it. AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura wrestled for you guys years ago. It doesn't matter anymore. We've seen them. We've run them on repeat like 427 times. It's time for new action, new stars, new matches, and a very consistent presentation of new content for the wrestling fans if New Japan wants to stay relevant in North America. We have so much wrestling at our disposal right now, and that's without all the Fight TV broadcasts and Evolve shows and AAWs and MLWs. MLW's going crazy right now, signing all kinds of talent, making themselves very clear that they are a competitor in this. We even have access to CMLL and AAA here in the United States, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, all these different shows we have here, and New Japan's just sitting back playing reruns every week. Come on, New Japan, we need more from you. Going to get past all the craziness from tonight and get back to a few other tidbits from the week. One, on the All Elite Wrestling front, they did sign their major distribution deal this week with Hot Topic. Hot Topic will be carrying all of their products. They made a television deal in Canada, another deal in Europe. AEW is looking like a major player. I do like to point out that tonight on the show, before the show and then again after the show, before the show, CIMA was in action against Darby Allin in a dark match, which was said to be a fantastic match. Darby Allin picking up the win. And then after the show, there were going to be more dark matches. This is something WWE needs to look at too. This is an opportunity for you to get to all the stuff that was advertised. And I get it, on Raw and SmackDown, WWE does give you some dark matches that aren't televised. But AEW is giving you really interesting matches that are in that spot, okay? We're not talking about some AJ Styles match against somebody, against Cedric Alexander that we've seen 427 times. We haven't seen CIMA versus Darby Allin. This was a great opportunity to see that if you were live in the venue. And they're apparently going to do this every week. So kudos to them for coming up with a great way to draw in more in-ring viewers and get people to get out of the homes and into the stadiums, get out of the parking lot and come inside, stop tailgating, and start watching some action early, because there's a lot of action to be had. WWE announced for SmackDown this Friday night, the Fox debut. Obviously, the biggest name is The Rock, announced for the show. There's rumors floating around that the Bella Twins will be returning on this show. Hulk Hogan, Steve Austin, Nature Boy Ric Flair, Sting, Booker T, Lita, Mick Foley, Kurt Angle, Goldberg, Trish Stratus, Mark Henry, Jerry Lawler. They're all going to be there to really boost this debut on Fox. You know we're going to see the World Championship defended. Kofi Kingston defending against Brock Lesnar. The show should be stacked, and after tonight's episode of All Elite Wrestling Dynamite, WWE probably has been put on notice that they better deliver some big action, because there is a legitimate second product out there now that people legitimately may turn the channel to because it's that good. Now, I get it. I said earlier how all of us diehard fans are going to watch both shows. What that really means is we're all going to watch Raw and SmackDown, NXT, AEW, probably Impact, Ring of Honor, New Japan, all of it. We're going to watch all of it. But at the end of the day, if you have to ration out when you tune in and what you tune into, or if you've got one of those DVRs and you're like, yeah, I'll read the spoilers about SmackDown, I don't need to actually watch it. Maybe you'll delete SmackDown. You don't want to do that. At least if you're WWE, you don't want to see that. So they better put their best foot forward and really give us something exciting to watch on Friday night. Because if not, people are going to be very much looking forward to what AEW has to do coming off of such a great debut. I want to address one of the rumors that's floating around out there, that the whole beatdown of Rey Mysterio on Monday night by Brock Lesnar and taking out Dominic, his son, was done for a specific strategic purpose. That purpose being Cain Velasquez, former UFC heavyweight champion, defeated Brock Lesnar for the UFC heavyweight title way back in 2010. Apparently, the working idea is to move towards a match between Cain and Brock Lesnar. That Cain would be the guy who comes in and defends the honor of WWE's most famous and storied luchador, and he would be the man to step in the ring with Brock Lesnar. Because let's face it, who's going to buy a match between Rey Mysterio and Brock Lesnar? It doesn't even make sense. It's hard enough to believe half the times when Rey beats people who are 6'6" and 300 pounds as it is, he's not beating Brock Lesnar, especially not at this stage of his career. But if you bring Cain Velasquez in and have him go against Brock Lesnar, now you've got a legitimate draw. You've got mainstream appeal. It's something Fox would love, USA Network would love, whichever show it ends up happening on. And now you've set this stage and you put all the plans in motion. Now the problem is Cain is not signed to WWE. He says he wants knee surgery before he signs with anybody. Maybe WWE makes him a sweet deal to come in without the knee surgery, or maybe they sign him, have him get the surgery, and do the match later. Have a slow build to a huge payoff, maybe at WrestleMania. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Now, I know that he's been negotiating with AAA. He's been negotiating with New Japan Pro Wrestling, with Ring of Honor, with All Elite Wrestling. But it sounds like WWE might beat them all to the punch. If they're willing to put a storyline in motion already, it tells me they must have been very confident coming out of those meetings that they may be able to land Cain Velasquez and put him into a prime position to face Brock Lesnar. One of the things about tonight's NXT show that I have a little bit of an issue with is apparently the NXT talent that is now being exposed to television mainstream distribution have not been given raises. They're still being paid regular NXT rate, and that's not okay. Let's be honest right now, Matt Taven, the reason he went back to Ring of Honor and didn't sign with WWE is because Ring of Honor was offering him almost 3 times the money. NXT has a harder schedule and a third the money for someone the level of Matt Taven. You know, if you're somebody like Jay Lethal, Marty Scurll, why would you entertain the idea of going to WWE right now with All Elite Wrestling with huge dollars out there, Ring of Honor offering good money, New Japan paying good money? WWE better step it up. Your NXT guys are on public television now, cable television. They're exposed to a much bigger audience. It's time to give it. And here's the thing I really found funny. I got to throw this out there. Luke Harper, who has had a tumultuous relationship with WWE all year because they didn't want to promote him the right way. Vince didn't see anything in him. He asked for his release. It wasn't granted. They extended his contract, all that stuff. I love the post that people were referencing all week that he's talking about all the NXT talents, like 15, 20 of them, all have merchandise, and he still has yet to ever get a t-shirt. Somebody argued with him that he had one when he was in the Wyatt family the one time, but that wasn't his shirt. He actually said, yeah, that was the shirt that WWE stole from my friend who designed it, but never had his own shirt. Is that an indicator that maybe he's interested in leaving still? Maybe he's going to go to All Elite Wrestling. Or is WWE going to work something out? They are putting him into a pretty good spot, working with Eric Rowan in a main event picture. So maybe he's not leaving. We'll have to wait and see. You know, Sasha Banks re-upped her deal. Maybe he'll do the same thing. 205 Live officially has moved to Friday nights. They made the announcement. They're going to pretty much integrate that into NXT at some point. But for the short term, going to keep it on the network. Keep those guys some just network exclusive exposure. Let's face it. If you have your own network, you got to have some exclusive content. If you can find whatever you want to see anywhere else, why tune into the network? Why buy the network? Is it just for the pay-per-views? I hope not. And the last thing for tonight, Chelsea Green. She has been an Impact Wrestling knockout. She's been in WWE, in NXT, wrestled one match before she broke her wrist, and she's been on the shelf ever since. But now she's been doing some test work on being a backstage commentator. I think this would be a good move for her, at least in the short term. She needs to get back in the ring. She's one of the most talented young ladies on the entire women's roster in NXT, and most people don't even know that because they haven't had the opportunity to see her work. That's because she got hurt the first time she was out there. Hopefully she gets better soon, but in the meantime, hey, we may have just found the latest female talent for an on-air commentator role. Watch out, Renee Young. Watch out, Beth Phoenix. You got somebody coming up behind you. That's all the time we have for this episode. Check back with us next episode where we'll run down the latest wrestling news and rumors. Special thanks, as always, goes out to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com. They produce all the music and sound effects we use in our shows. Today's podcast is sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bringing a new friend to family game night is easy with sketchy people. Showcase your artistic side in this game from Beazle Games by going to frowrestling.com and clicking the icon in the middle of the screen. And to alleyrepair.com. Contact Alley Repair today for servicing of all your classic skee-ball, pinball, and arcade game needs. If you're looking for your next career move, you're considering college, university life, or you just need some formal training for your next career decision, go to our sister website at frolifeplanning.com for all your higher education needs, as Fro Life Educational Planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Mr. Fro. I want to thank you so much for taking a few moments with us tonight. If you're looking for more wrestling news and rumors, go to www.tsj101sports.com for their latest articles. Check out my blog, Info's Corner, for my latest pieces, or make sure you check out the Indie Events tab at the top of ProWrestling.com and support indie wrestling. There's some incredible action out there for everyone. Take care, everybody. I hope you enjoyed All Elite Wrestling's debut tonight and NXT on USA. And until next time, I will be watching every second of all this insane wrestling action that is coming to the television near you. Check them all out, people. Get all those hours in. Be the diehards you know you are. Watch all that wrestling. Take care. Have a good night.